Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the 2017-2018 season when we're reviewing it and recapping all the events and what happened, of course, the final result of the season. Now let's start with 42-32-8 season. With that record, they got 92 points. They were improving 13 points from last season, but of course that was not enough to make the playoffs, as 92 points isn't usually enough to make the playoffs, as we see time and time again. The supposed off-season champions had a lot of hype going into the season. Now, even though they did do a lot better than last season, it still wasn't as expectations rose. It still wasn't enough to meet them. Now, of course, Dallas's 25th year in Dallas, and they had a lot of cool events. Of course, retirement nights for Jere Lehtinen. I have that up there, and of course the banner. But they had lots of guys from the alumni, lots of former Dallas Stars that were part of the Cup runs at early part of the history of the Dallas Stars. They came and dropped pucks. They did a lot of stuff. Just separated a lot of guys from there. I mean, Mike Modano had his Modano night just a few weeks ago, I think it was, and there was a lot of events going on about the 25th anniversary. Of course, we get the draft in the offseason, which just basically tops it off. The Stars hosted a lot of events in this 25th year, but sadly, the Stanley Cup playoffs wasn't one of them. So I'll go through these stats for all Dallas Stars players that have played at least, I've gotten a point this season. We'll start with the trio. Jamie Benn, 36 goals, 43 assists for 79 points, leads the team by 1 point, and that was just a fuel in the last couple of weeks. He's been hot as ever, and he had one of the best weeks I think that he's ever had. I mean, he had a couple hat tricks in 1 week. He's been doing fantastic, and down the stretch, he's been really good. You would have liked to see that more in March and around the team as well, but again, at least he's getting those points, and 79 points. I mean, that's one of the better seasons of his career, which is great to see. And you have Tyler Seguin, the Hart candidate, I guess, with 40 goals, 38 assists, and 78 points. Again, 1 point behind Ben, and he had a fantastic season. Again, to get 40 goals was the threshold that I wanted him to get, and he gets 40, which I think is the first time in his career, and I think that's the third time in Dallas Stars history that a Dallas Star has gotten 40 goals. That's great to see him finally get that milestone too. And I got Alex Radulov with 27 goals, 45 assists for 72 points, right around where I expect him to get. I expect him to be like 65 points, but again, 72, that's really good for what I thought he was going to get, and he did have a very good season there. Then you have John Klingberg, the, I guess, Norris contender, with 8 goals, 59 assists, and 67 points. I think he still leads the league in assists, or not in assists, but defenseman assists. I could be wrong there, but again, fantastic season for him offensively. Again, he had that down year last season, bouncing right back up. That's great to see. Then you see 67 points, then you go to Mattias Janmark, who has 19 goals, 15 assists, and 34 points. You see the drop-off there. That's a 33-point drop-off, and that's significant. Again, I defended this team's depth for the longest time, but I really can't do it anymore. That drop-off is just too big for the Dallas Stars, and that's a big key hole that they're going to have to fix in the offseason, but alas. Mattias Janmark still having a good season. He was pretty good for routes and a good depth guy. Hopefully will be third line, even though I don't think how likely that'll be, but again, it's still a decent season from him. Rack Faksa, my boy, 17 goals, 16 assists, 33 points, but it's not really what he brings offensively, even though he's still a decent guy offensively. It's about what he brings defensively, and he's been fantastic, even though a little bit cold and a little bit shaky in the last couple of weeks, as well as the team in general. Again, throughout the whole season, he's been fantastic defensively, one of the anchors of that defense on the penalty kill as well. Then you got Devin Shore, 11 goals, 21 assists, 32 points. He's had his moments. He's been hot and cold, but again, he still gets it done sometimes, and he isn't the best guy out there. Again, he gets power play time, which I still don't really agree with, but again, he's a good option there, and he's still pretty decent on that third line. Then you got Tyler Pitlick, who had a surprisingly great season, 14 goals, 13 assists, 27 points. Again, a lot more better than I expected him to be. I thought he was going to be a fourth line guy, maybe get like 10, 15 points, but again, 27 points is really good for what I expected. I mean, 14 goals, I didn't expect that at all. Then you got Elsa Liddell, probably the Stars' second best defenseman, 7 goals, 20 assists, 27 points. He was a good offensive option, but down the stretch, defensively, he was just trash, man. He made so many bad turnovers, and such bad defensive coverage that in the last month or so, he was really one of the problems with the All-Stars. He was not good at all down the stretch. He was good, very good, decently. It was really decent, really solid start of the season. In the second half, he was decent, but the last month, that March, was just brutal. He never really recovered, at least defensively. He was still fine offensively, but defensively, man, he had some struggles. Next, Jason Spezza, who I already made a video on a couple of days ago, 8 goals, 18 assists, 26 points. If you want to see that, my opinion on him, just go watch that video. That's like 9 minutes long, so I pretty much vent off there. But next you have Danahan, who's 3 goals, 21 assists for 24 points, and he was decent. Again, he showed his age at times, but he was still a decent defenseman. Not a top 4 guy like the Dallas Stars were using him as, but a decent defenseman there. He still is a really solid option. Not a great one, but a solid option. I don't think that he's a top 4 caliber guy. Again, his age has showed, but again, he's still decent there. Then you got Antoine Roussel, who has been a pretty unlucky season. 5 goals, 12 assists, 17 points. There's a lot of games where I said, he's doing the right thing. He's doing the good things that he's supposed to do. Again, he's been a good penalty kill over a lot of the season. He's just been getting unlucky offensively. He's got some really good. He's made some really good plays, but again, sometimes his teammates wouldn't vary it. Sometimes the goalie would just steal it away. I mean, he's been really unlucky this season, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass offensively. Then I got Stephen Johns with 8 goals, 7 assists, and 15 points. Again, 8 goals was pretty good for him. He had a good offensive season. Kind of was slow. Again, he had some hot streaks in there, definitely some hot and cold streaks offensively, but defensively he was just fine. I think that he is a good, solid top 6 guy going forward. Again, he was pretty solid defensively for most of the season. Again, has had his cold streaks, but I think he's pretty solid overall defensively. Then you got Brett Ritchie, 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 points. I mean, he's gotten some power play time, which I don't agree with, but he's had some, again, inconsistent play. He's had some hot streaks and some cold streaks, but Brett Ritchie, he's a decent 4th line guy. Nothing more than that. Sometimes he would get more playing time, which I don't agree with, but he's okay. But again, offensively, it's not really what he brings. He's a physical kind of guy. He isn't the offensive guy that's, if you're expecting that. Then you got Remi Ali, who has 6 goals, 8 assists, and 14 points. I really am trying to defend him, but really I just can't anymore. He brings speed. That's pretty much all that he brings. He's an energy guy, and I guess that's what you want from him. But he doesn't bring too much offense. He misses the net a lot. He is not great defensively. He just brings some energy, and I guess if that's what you're looking for, you're going to get it from him. Greg Patterns, 1 goal, 2 assists, or 12 assists, 13 points. He was solid, but again, a top 6 guy, I don't really know if that's his position because, again, he was decent in spots, but sometimes he would just look pretty like, he would look out of place in some plays, and he just was okay, but not great. And I don't know what I was expecting from him, but he's looking good. He looked good in some games and would look bad in others. He's been inconsistent along with the team in general, but again, he's an okay option if you're going to keep him as in that top 6. I want to be completely mad, but I think he's more in the line of a top, or in the 7th defenseman role. Again, that's just my opinion. Then you got Jamel Smith, who is the ace in the hole, had some clutch goals in the season. That's fun to see. Again, I think he's played like 30 less games than Remi Ali and has as many goals as him, and that's just a shame because Jamel Smith is elite, and I wish he got more playing time. Martin Hanzal, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. He was injured for, I think it was like 50 games. He had some weird injuries. It would be like a day-to-day, another day-to-day, and another day-to-day, and he just kind of got that bad. I think it was foot injury at the last couple of weeks of the season. Had to get a surgery, so he's going to be back next year. I don't know what his situation is and how he's going to play next year, but again, that's a wild card. Then you got the last 2 defensemen, Julius Honka, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. He, again, kind of like Antoine Roussel, he was playing great. He still was playing pretty decent. Defensively, he's a little bit spotty, but he's had some unlucky breaks. Again, he's made some brilliant passes, just no production really to show on the scoreboard, but he has played well. I do believe he does deserve a spot in that team rather than a guy like Patterson. I know that is controversial, but again, Honka, you need to hashtag free Honka because he has played pretty well for the Dallas Stars. Then he got Mark without 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. He just got that goal the other day, and it was a long time coming. He had some injuries, but again, he was pretty disappointing this season. Offensively, for sure, I thought he was going to be with Klingberg. Really glad they didn't put that pairing together because it would have been disastrous for Klingberg because Mark thought has been really interesting this season. He's good defensively, he's decent defensively, but offensively, he's just kind of fell off a cliff from his time in Ottawa. Again, he was playing with Erik Karlsson, so it might have been a little bit too much of an expectation for him, but maybe if he played with Klingberg, he would be a little bit better, or the exact opposite. I mean, he hasn't played all that great, but his pairing isn't, I don't know, because lines switch up a lot. I don't know exactly what his pairing is, but Mafat hasn't played with Klingberg a lot, I know that for sure. So again, he hasn't gotten the passes and the overall production that he probably should have. And overall, the team depth is obviously a big weakness that's going to have to be addressed in the offseason. I mean, second line forwards aren't easy to come by, but again, this team needs it if they're going to want to be in the playoffs and be a playoff contender. I mean, just look back on the 2015-2016 season where the Stars got, I think it was 108 points, and they had just an abundant of guys, and some of those guys are still on the team, but of course they regressed. Patrick Sharp is not on the team. Spezza had a great year that season, but again, has regressed mightily. There's some guys that were playing like it, but the Stars haven't replaced them like they probably should have. Another big reason the Stars started to really slow down and have that 8-game losing streak in the middle of the season was because the penalty kill was very good early in the season, but towards the end, it was really becoming a problem. The Stars were it just was night and day. One day they would be fantastic on the penalty kill, and then the other just month. That March month was terrible for the penalty kill, and it really showed they lost a lot more games. And penalty kill was something to be relied on early in the season, but now, in these last couple of months, it was really, really terrible, and that was a big thing that the Stars were taking a lot of penalties still, but we're not able to kill it off. Another thing is that Hitchcock's system did work for a little bit. I mean, in January and February, it was pretty good. The Stars were doing really well. The Stars were contending for a second place spot in the Central Division, but then it started to just all come down. I don't know what happened there. Something changed, but the Stars in the March just were crap, and it was just night and day. February, really good, and towards the end of February, it started to trail off a little bit, but then March, it just went totally down, and it sucks because we were right there in the playoff spot, and of course, we fell all the way down. It was basically a historic collapse, and I don't know if what was really to blame for that. I mean, there was an untimely Bishop injury, which was really, really bad timing, of course, when the Stars were starting to slip off. We really didn't need that injury, but again, I don't know what the problem really was. Hitchcock's style, was it the players? I mean, there's a lot of things that went into it, but I think just everything was kind of collapsing at the same time. Hitchcock's style wasn't working. A lot of the things that the Stars relied on weren't working, and at the time, it was really just a major collapse. Just everything wasn't working, and it turned into one big package of, you're not going to be in the playoffs. And even though the Stars didn't make any moves at the deadline, they still were a decent team at the time. I still believe that they made the playoffs. Now, I still think that making no moves at the deadline, still, even though we missed the playoffs, was the right decision. I don't think that the team needed another piece that was going to be, even though there was some really good trades made by buyers, I still don't think that it was quite worth it, because the Stars, even if they did acquire a guy like Vanek, they still wouldn't have gone too far in the playoffs if they even made it. And I don't think that it was really worth it, because, sacrificing the future is not really worth it, because this isn't even their year anyways. I'd say that next year is probably their biggest chance of Stanley Cup. Of course, Thomas Sagan's career, or I guess contract with the Stars, is ending, and there's lots of key pieces that are getting older at that season, so it's probably the last shot that they truly, truly have towards it. But I'd say that it wasn't really their year this year, and even if they got a guy like Vanek, it still wouldn't affect them much. They probably could still get swept by Predators. Even though we didn't miss the playoffs, there's not too many holes that I think are not fixable in the offseason. I think that they could make some moves, and they'll be right back in the playoffs next season. I think that they could get maybe one or two second-line centers that's going to come up and play well. Maybe they get high pick in the draft. Maybe they're lucky again in the draft and get another guy that could be NHL ready. And this problem could be fixed in the next season. And that's probably their best shot at it, as if you guys are aging. Of course, Tyler Seguin has his last year on his contract. That's going to be a big year to see what they do there. And I don't think there's any problems in this team that aren't really fixable. And that's probably my point. But again, it's just sad to see another prime year of Ben, of Seguin, of Radulov, of Klingberg wasted. And it sucks because these guys are going to get older, and it's probably the window is a little bit closing, even though we still have some young guys that are coming up. The window is starting to be in the distance there. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the goalie stats. You have Ben Bishop at a 916 save percentage, 2.49 goals against average, and he's been decent when he played. He was still a solid option, not great, but very, very solid. He had some inconsistent nights. He would be great in others, but still an inconsistent goaltender, which I don't really like, but he was still solid overall. And then you got Craig Letton, who really dipped in the last few weeks of the season with a 912 save percentage of 256 goals against average. And you got elite Mike McKenna, who played 2 games and was pretty elite, as you can tell. But yeah, just making it out there, the goaltending is not the problem here. I'd say it's one of their bigger strengths this season is that the goaltending was decent. It was above league average. And I thought that if they just got above league average goaltending, they would make the playoffs. They did, and of course did not make the playoffs, because of course they didn't. But just overall, I'd say it was not a successful season. It was successful in ways, but in others it wasn't. there were some milestones, there were some big moments. But again, the Stars couldn't get over that hump, and they just collapsed at the wrong time. And it just comes down to that. It's when you do collapse, there's always going to be a time and a place where one team, even though they're the best team in the league, will collapse for a little bit, and that happened for the Dallas Stars in probably the worst possible timing that they could ever hope for. And I see them back in the playoffs next season, but again, I don't see them as a playoff contender unless they make some big moves. I just don't see them as that, as some big holes were exposed in this season, especially in March. Again, it was a frustrating season, a happy season. It was just a conglomeration of emotions. Like everything was checked off the scoreboard here, except for the playoffs. And it seemed like this was a complete season, but they didn't make it. And there was a lot of milestones, and a lot of things happened. A lot of good things happened for the Dallas Stars this season. But again, it goes all into one package, and you are in the playoffs. Somehow, some way, the Stars decided to choke all this with all the things and all the great things that happened this season, and they just choked it away. And the 25th season of Dallas Stars history, they decided to choke it away in March and not make the playoffs. But yes, it was a disappointing season. Lots of Stars fans, including me, expected playoffs after what they did in the offseason. Of course, the offseason champs, the Dallas Stars right now, but of course that doesn't come to matter because the Stars end up choking in March. And of course, you can't make any offseason changes in March, do ya? But for Dallas Stars fans, playoff hockey will have to wait till next year, hopefully. But that's gonna, guys. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell on. Tell me below what you think of the season. Maybe what do you think going into the offseason? I might do a preview video of the offseason, something like that. But that's gonna, guys. Goodbye.